Mrs. Cobel is the only person on the show that really cares about the principles of Kier.
The show misses the character of Helly.
Oh, we will talk about all that and more on the Double P podcast presentation of Milchick Men, a podcast about Apple TV Plus's show Severance Season 2. We're discussing Episode 3. My name is Catfish, and with me, as always, is someone who has overestimated their contributions and underestimated their blessings. It's Bubba.
Hey guys, Catfish, it's so good to see you. Of course, every time I do see you, I can see a pouch. Guys, we're going to be breaking down Season 2, Episode 3, Who is Alive? Mark and Helly return to an old haunt. Irving and Dylan make separate discoveries. Outie Mark tries something new. Catfish, whoa, it feels like we are sprinting into this season. What is your rating out of 10 for Episode 3?
Before we get into that, I feel like I need to bring something up.
Oh, no.
You are, every show we do, you natter, that's right, that's the right word for it, natter on and on about the opening credits, but you refuse to discuss the opening credits of Severance, what they meant last year, they're new this year, what they mean this year. So I just want to put out there for the listeners, I want you to tell me, what is Bubba hiding? All right, and now I will get on to my rating, Bubba. I am going to give this 9.5 double I's out of 10.
Well, I know double I's must stand for iffy integrations.
That is right. It is iffy integrations. Bubba, we are stepping it up. We're piling on the weirdness and mysteries. We got the goat people. That's all I can call them. The goat people. Bubba, if there is anybody who has raised my suspicions that they've abandoned their outie life, it's these goat people. They have really let themselves go. We're moving forward the plot with Mark's iffy integrations. We've got cool stuff happening with Irv. We've got cool stuff happening with our other people. Helly / Helena, Dylan G. We met Mrs. Dylan G tonight. His family time was a little bit more mellow than I thought, but maybe they're building up to something. But Bubba, I love it. Again, they are piling on the mysteries. And Bubba, at this point, I don't care if they resolve only a third of them. Just keep bringing it on. The show's weird. Listen, we covered Silo, and we talked about how things moved real slow in that season. We are in Episode 3, and we already have Mark trying to do the integration. Now, being the second test subject ever for an experiment, probably not the smartest idea, but he is desperate to meet his wife, Bubba. So 9.5, I am still super excited about this season. I love what's happening. Bubba, I'm sure you agree with me. So tell me, what is your rating for this season, this episode?
Catfish, I just want to confirm something. 9.5, that is the highest you've given this season. So this is your favorite episode of the season?
That is true. That is absolutely true.
Wow. Because I am ready for everybody's pitchforks. I am giving it my worst rating of the season in that I'm only giving this episode 7 double S's, double W's out of 10.
Wait, double S's, double W's?
Can you guess what that is?
Bubba, I'm going to guess that's Severance scale wizard weight. And I don't even know what that means. Oh, I got it right, even though I have no idea what that means.
I'm judging this on a Severance scale. So before you come at me, before you goat herders come and circle me, say that I am judging this by how incredible I think Severance is. So to me, based on the magnitude on the scale Severance has already created, to me, this episode was a 7. And then it's a wizard weight, kind of because I was expecting it. At the beginning of the story, if our protagonist is told, yeah, you got to go down this long road and talk to the wizard, I'm not going to expect in the very next thing to be, hey, here's the wizard. I know I have to wait for the wizard. But a whole lot of this episode, until maybe that crazy, wild, mind-blowing ending, a lot of this episode, I watched it, I enjoyed it, but I kind of thought, well, these are the first steps on the path to the wizard, aka towards the goal that every character is going to have this season. So the other reason why I'm slightly down on this episode, and this is just me, listeners, for every episode of Severance, I enjoy it when I'm laughing all the time. This episode had a huge gut-busting laugh from me, but it felt like there was only really one LOL moment in the episode. That's just me. That's my opinion. I can be certainly wrong. I'm just telling you how I felt. So a Severance scale 7 is probably a normal show 8 or 9, but for me, this is a Severance scale 7.
Well, Bubba, I absolutely have to agree with you about the jokes because we have this segment where we talk about all the jokes, and I struggled. I came up with 3, but to be honest, they weren't that funny. As someone who is a huge fan of Wizard of Oz, the books, was that first book like 50 pages? Or did they actually take some time to get to the wizard? Did they have a wizard wait in the Wizard of Oz?
Yes, they did in the very first book. It's the way the Wizard of Oz books were originally written back at the early, I mean, the 1900, 1901, 1902, those 13 books written by L. Frank Baum. A lot of them, they have chapters, but the chapters like, here's a mini adventure to read before you go to bed. And then Dorothy has this mini adventure before you go to bed. So to me, this felt once again like the beginning steps in a journey towards the goal, the wizard. And while I enjoyed it, watching it, I kind of realized, okay, this is just, putting our foot in the water. It's going to be a while before we're submerged into awesomeness. Just me.
Well, I'm just saying, the Wizard of Oz was not a 50-page book, nor is this a 5-episode season. So to me, they just keep introducing weird things to puzzle over. And we'll talk about those when we get to them. But meanwhile, we always say, who cares what Bubba thinks? What do you think? And we have been getting us a lot of great feedback. We've got some more tonight. I am ready for all your theories, your tinfoil hat theories. Somebody gave us some information from another podcast tonight. Fabulous. That's not what I want. I want your crazy theories. The crazier, the better. And Bubba, I looked at some of the feedback tonight. Some of these people have given me great ideas of what's happening. Somebody had some feedback from last week that proved true this week. I mean, our listeners, they are doing the job for us. Now, the question is, if you want to share in this, how do you get on to the Milchick Men podcast? There are several ways to do it. You can comment on the YouTube after you smash the subscribe button. Comment on Horrible X. You could do it on Blue Sky. You can do it on Threads. The other thing you can do is email us at hello@doublepmedia.com. We actually got an email this week from a loyal listener, but it was their Innie. So this is fascinating.
We are excited. And if you are on YouTube, we are so close to 10,000 subscribers. Please smash that subscribe
button. How close are we? Are we losing any?
Wait until they hear me giving this episode 7 out of 10, and then we're going to probably lose hundreds. But Right now, we're about 394 away. No, actually, make that 391 away from 10,000.
Yeah.
We're going to talk real quickly about some news speculation. If you're not interested in Emmy Awards given out by the Television Academy, check the time links below and skip past this. But we want to do some speculation, Catfish. A lot of shows that were eating up Emmy nominations, like HBO's Succession, they're off the air now. Can Severance, this great show that we're all celebrating, can it get multiple Emmy nominations and Emmy nomination wins? Now, for season 1, it had 14 nominations. It had 2 wins, but it was nominated for Best Drama, lost to Succession. Nominated for Best Lead Actor for Adam Scott, lost to Lee Jong-jae from Squid Game. It was nominated for Best Supporting Actors, John Turturro and Christopher Walken. It lost to Matthew McFadden from Succession, and Patricia Arquette was nominated for Supporting Actress. She lost to Julia Garner from Ozark. Catfish. When I look at the upcoming shows that could be nominated, this year for Best Drama. You got to think White Lotus, HBO, which is going to be premiering in a bit, Yellow Jackets. I honestly think Wolf Hall, the BBC/PBS show that's coming for season 2, might get some. Mark Rylance is going to get some love. I promise you that. The Last of Us, Andor, and The Handmaid's Tale all come out in April of this year. Any thoughts, Catfish, if that is the group, and you may know if there are others, should Severance beat that group? Is there something that needs to be worried about in its path? Like, who's the succession that could block it this year?
Well, I don't think there's a succession that will block it in all those categories, but I can see things blocking lead actor, Last of Us, Andor. I think White Lotus, which is it still considered a limited series, or
no,
is it a series now?
With season 2, it moved to series. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, you could definitely worry about that, as well as The Last of Us, for sure. I don't think, I'm a little concerned. I mean, it's nice that it got nominated. I just don't know. It might be a little too strange to win these awards. I mean, even Handmaid's Tale is more straightforward. Yellow Jackets is, I would also put this sort of in the kind of maybe too weird category. I'm hopeful, but we'll see. Do you think, is Squid Game going to get the same kind of love that it got in the first season?
Squid Game season 2, I think that's a huge question. Just going off buzz, I wouldn't think so. Would you?
No.
So it'll be interesting, listeners. I assume if you're listening to a Severance podcast, you love this show and think it probably should win in Best Drama for this TV year. But as I pointed out, there's a lot of great competition out there. There are going to be new shows starting up. I tried to look through new shows. Netflix has a new show with Robert De Niro, but I really imagine that would be nominated in the, limited series category. So I couldn't see what else could give Severance trouble in that, Catfish. I just couldn't. Of course, I'm not as high on The Last of Us as other people are, but I would think that's probably number one of troubling for them.
Yeah, I would agree.
All right, listeners, write to us and let us know your Emmy thoughts and who we should vote for.
I always let Bubba know who I'm voting for.
Yeah, please. Oh, yeah, there's no secret ballot here. We give up everything. Well, okay, we have been too serious, and maybe Severance losing those Emmy nominations way back 3 years ago when it first came out is depressing us. So, Catfish, based on this week's episode 3, Who is Alive, is there something you'd like to have severed from your brainage? And I should point out, we've had people writing in and saying, I love it. Martha said, hey, I'd sever myself until November 2028 too. And Excellent. Then Mary wrote, I'm 100% with you, Catfish, on what I'd like to forget. Knew I loved you guys for a reason. Oh, thank you, Martha and Mary. We love everybody joining in with our silly segment. So, Catfish, what would you like severed from your brainage?
Right now, Bubba, This just happened. I want severed from my brainage that you gave this episode a 7.
What? I gave it a what? I had that severed from my brain.
Smart. What about you, Bubba? What would you like to have severed from your brain?
Okay, well, there is so much happening in the world, so much serious stuff happening in the world. I'm going to pick a less serious thing here when we're recording this. We're about 9 days away from a Super Bowl, which is a rematch of two teams that I have nothing against other than I'm sick of both of them. So sever these teams out of my brain so I can watch the Super Bowl commercials and not have to see these same two teams in another Super Bowl. That's for me.
All the Super Bowl ads, the good ones, get released before the Super Bowl and or afterwards. You can read about 47 different articles about what the best commercials were. So I think not only am I not watching the Super Bowl, but I believe I convinced one other person to also not watch it.
Oh, wow.
That's how sick I am of these teams.
Man, that is some serious severing right there. Oh, man. Well, okay, before we break down the episode, let's do yet another silly segment, Catfish. That's where we're going to tackle double S's.
The Severance Sillies.
Right, it's our silly segment of Severance Sillies.
So, all right, and look, we've got one from last week, which is great. DV said, my favorite Severance Silly from episode 2 was probably Irving saying, oh God, what did I eat in there? when Milchick was at the door and asked him if he was all right. Close second, Mark getting offered the raise that he should have gotten when he became team lead in season 1, episode 1.
So good. So good. I laughed a lot in the first 2 episodes of season 2. This 3rd episode, I had one huge laugh, but Catfish, what do you got as our nominees this week?
All right, we really only have 2. There was a slight chuckle at Watch Out for the Goat Poop, which I thought was funny. A very awkward one is when Dylan G is with his wife, and she says, "Who is that child?" And he's supposed to have having private family time, and over the monitor, click, Miss Huang. Awkward. And then this is the one you probably loved. It is when, oh God, I forgot her name, from the
Natalie.
Natalie talking to Ricken, and she reads off his horrible line about why essentially poor people aren't happy because they can't drink wine. I don't know, it was bizarre. And she said, "It's so astute." And he says, "That's what I was going for."
Ricken is a man of the people. All of these got a little chuckle from me, Catfish, but none of them got the huge belly laugh from me. Well,
what was it?
This is one of those things Severance does so great, where it's you laugh at something and then, a couple moments later, you're like, oh boy, this is horrific. When Natalie presented Milchick with the paintings that allow him to see himself
as
Kier, see Kier in himself. Like when I first saw it, I started literally braying like a donkey. It made me laugh so hard. Now that said, of course, a couple minutes later, the shock of how terrible a present this is, a gift this is, sinks in as they show how Milchick may not have been affected as strongly as he was. But it was so inappropriate, so wrong-footed, so ridiculous. I laughed very hard. That was my big laugh for this week.
The board wants Milchick to know that she also got these when she was. All right, Bubba. Well, that's your laugh.
Yeah,
I'm still going to have to go with, I know I keep knocking it. I have to go with the Ricken. Whenever someone says something nice about him and he essentially says, "I agree," I'm all in on that, Bubba. That was funny.
1 week later, and you've become Ricken's biggest fan, Catfish.
No.
It's incredible.
No, I want Ricken severed from my mind.
Once again, I only gave it 7. On a Severance scale, I give it 7. You were 9.5. But it has taken us a lot of places. We are on that path to the wizard, but everybody's got paths. Everybody's going everywhere across the severed floor. Where do you want to start when we begin our recap in the Innie world? Do you want to start with Mark's search for Miss Casey, Dylan visit the family visitation room, Irving looking for inspiration from his paintings and Bert, or Milchick getting respect/disrespect? What do you want to talk about first?
We got to hold on for the best, which is Milchick. Let's cover Dylan's Innie first.
One thing that I think is great about this show, and again, I didn't do a rewatch. I've only seen that first season, 3 years ago when it first premiered. So in some ways, all your theories, listeners, all your stuff, kind of makes me a newbie on this. But even me, who is still, just watches this for the awesome vibe, when Dylan wasn't, jumping up out of his chair to go help Mark, or jumping up out of his chair to go with Irving on his quest, it was like, okay, Dylan knows family visitation may be coming up. I loved it. He's looking out for number one, or number, Innie one, I guess I would say. Did you have any thoughts about this, Catfish?
I didn't think that he knew that family visitation was coming this soon. I just thought that because he wants the family visitation, that he doesn't want to get caught doing anything bad. And I think, obviously, eventually he will be used as a spy/saboteur of whatever is going on in there. This seems to have swung completely in the opposite direction. Before, they couldn't even step out of the room. They had to hit their quota. Now they're just going on field trips. There is the clearly meant double meaning to double L.
Double L?
listening Lumon.
Love it.
And they mentioned in this scene, he's like, well, no, on there. Remember, Mark's like, Lumon is listening. And wasn't it Dylan who said, yeah, I think that means they're still always listening to us.
And they are. Now, Miss Wong, she comes up through good behavior and output. You've earned an 18-minute visitation event for you and your Outie wife, Gretchen G.
Now, Bubba, I know I speak with you when I say that is more than enough time.
So moving forward, this is so wonderful because this is the wife his Outie loves. This is the Outie wife who knows that she loves her husband and spends every day with her husband. And the fact they don't have a normal connection at all, incredibly awkward, poignant, brilliant stuff. How about this? She says, Seth warned me it might be weird. And he's like, who's Seth? Is he not listening to our podcast? What is going on, man?
Mrs. Wong, she jumps in. Ms. Wong,
yeah.
No privileged or sensitive information. I mean, what is privileged or sensitive? You would assume everything from the outside is privileged or sensitive, but this is a moving line for Dylan.
Wow. Did you know, once again, I only watched these episodes once 3 years ago. I knew he had a son. Did you realize he has 3 kids? Whoa, that is a lot of pressure to be the provider, Catfish.
No, that is a lot of pressure. And what I love here is that, you know, I talked about it last week, that Dylan is such, his Innie versus Outie is such a different personality style. He is such a cocky MFer in here. And so now he's got to learn. She says, my husband has trouble keeping jobs.
Ouch.
And Dylan's inner swagger, Innie swagger, he's like, is he dumb? Is he a dick?
Ow.
And she says, he never quite found his thing. And so then he says, so he's actually kind of an F-up.
Ouch.
Dylan finds out his Outie is a loser.
Crazy. But it does end almost on a poignant moment where inner Dylan is like, listen, I'll be good. I'm going to make you all proud. And then Gretchen, his wife, is, I'm always proud of you, Dylan. I love you. And then his great response, oh.
Well, I mean, it would be weird for him to say that he loves her. He doesn't even know her.
Wow. So love, which we all think is the strongest emotion, can't cut through this set, this Lumon chip. This Lumon implant will stop it, Catfish.
Right. So, this is something we didn't speculate on last week. Mistakenly, it should have been a deeply dumb catfish question. At a certain point, obviously, and it may have already occurred, Dylan's definitely going to keep this a secret. But why did he keep it a secret initially? I'm sorry, did Milchick say keep this from the other Innies? I don't think he did.
I don't think he did either, no.
So the question is, I mean, again, at a certain point, you've gone too far to bring it up. But it seems to me that there wasn't a great justification for him not saying anything in the first place.
Well, I do think when Milchick and Dylan had their discussion in the first episode of season 1, they kind of pointed out that Mark lived alone, and Irving lived alone, and Helly lived alone. So even if he didn't say, hey, this is for you, I'm pretty sure Milchick implied that this is for families, and those other 3 don't have families. You do. Right. That's the way I took it.
Right. Still, though, he could have said, with typical Dylan style, since I'm so badass, I get to see my family, and y'all are losers and don't have family.
Well, it's early. We got 7 more episodes. Who's to say Dylan G's not any Dylan G's not going to come through off the top rope and show his authority?
I love it. Ms. Wong leaves with Gretchen, and that's the end of Innie Dylan.
Right. We'll get to Outie Dylan in a bit, but first let's tackle one of our other people. Do you want to go to Irving or Mark next, Catfish?
Oh, let's go to Irving. It feels a little short, but this is a storyline I'm fascinated to see where it's going to go.
Irving is pushing his best bud, Dylan, to come with him. Hey, come with me. I'm going to go, O&D, my first time going there since Bert retired. Of course, Dylan, like I said, I could tell he could tell what was going on. And so now Bert's got the infamous hall pass he's showing off. He goes into the office and all of the, you know how this works. Everything reminds him of Bert. He's heartbroken, baby. And who comes up but Felicia? And she gives him a hug. Oh, how sweet.
Oh, man.
And it feels like they probably could tell Bert stories for the next 3 hours, right?
Oh, my God. Which she's like, can you believe he said no? I mean, what a rascal that guy is. How ballsy.
There'll never be another Bert, right?
Now,
exactly.
The one time when Bert was nervous, when he spent 2 hours on his hair when he went to visit Irving, Irving is very, very affected by this.
Yeah.
And I love this storyline. Like, you just feel it. You feel his loneliness, how he's missing Bert. Then he starts to show pictures of Bert. And then Felicia sees his drawing of the exports hall, which I thought maybe was his plan all along, but he does seem to react as if he didn't want her to see it. Maybe he's just covering.
Right. And what's so interesting is she calls it the exports hall. And what it feels like everybody online felt like that was the elevator down to the testing floor. And so very crazy stuff going on there, Catfish. She says, we used to send a lot of shipments there, used to go ourselves, but now they send a guy, meaning Lumon sends a guy to go there. Wow.
So this is almost, again, if he didn't mean to do it, it feels almost like an inexplicable coincidence, but she mistakenly sees that picture and she knows exactly where it is. And so we're set up for one of our innies to see their own personal wizard very shortly.
Well, I feel like this is be a good time to let's pause. And again, listeners, I can't say it enough. In some ways, you probably listen to podcasts because you want crazy theories. You want to hear all the thoughts. Because I just watched the first season and let it wash over me, I never came up with
in
theories.
A bath with your Arby's smoothie.
Right. So I never went into theories, and you guys send them. And these are some Irving theories. I think they're all the same theory that people have sent in, and I just want to run through them real quick. Good listener Zombie Italian said, Irving, I think, is working for or with the lady on the outside who tried to help Petey. And he thinks that's who Irving's working with. Zephyrcat, another great listener, said, Irving called Reghabi, that's the woman outside who helped Petey, and Irving said he's not surprised she doesn't answer, meaning she thinks Irving was calling Reghabi. She wrote that Irving says his Innie got the message, meaning that it's like his Outie is drawing the paintings to get his Innie to investigate what is going on down there. Gayleen, another listener, wrote, Marvelous Mr. Milchick Milkshake said there was bleed through from the Innie to the Outie. But what if Outie Irving knows about the hallway and is painting it over and over in an attempt to make his Innie self-conscious aware of it? And then she concludes, I'll have a classic roast beef and curly fries. Okay, thank you, Gayleen, for following up on that podcast from last week. Catfish, what do you think? Is, number one, did Irving, when he went to the cell phone, Outie Irv, call Reghabi? And is he working with her? And is Inner Irving, trying to force Outie Irving, trying to force his Innie to do stuff and investigate? Let's hear it. What do you think?
Well, Bubba, you just read 3 of our listeners give that theory. So if there was only 2, I would say no way, but 3, definitely. I agree. I am loving that our listeners have shown us the light at the end of the hallway.
Had you thought of any Irving theories ahead of time, Catfish, since you've watched the show multiple times?
No, to be honest with you, I didn't think he was working with somebody. I had thought he was in a different area. He was in this different area and had something very, very traumatic happen that bled from his Innie to his Outie. I did not think that it was bleeding from his Outie to his Innie. So that was my dumb theory.
Well, I think all theories are really good except your dumb one. And so listeners, please keep sending them. They're so great.
I don't know. Bubba,
Yeah.
Irving, check him off. Solved. By our listeners, solved.
All righty. Well, now we got to go. We got to go to the goat farm, Catfish. We got to go to the moment that made everybody say, we're back, baby. We're so back. So Mark has got this drawing of Miss Casey, most likely done by Irv, and it's got missing at the top of it. They've made copies. In episode 1 of season 2, I said, is Helly really okay with helping Mark find his wife? This version of Helly, who may be Helena, gets asked that exact same question. And she's like, yeah, of course I'm okay, Mark. And they have a moment that where both of them, they go through a gamut of faces, a gamut of emotions. And it's like, what did you take from this scene, Catfish?
Bubba, this scene reminded me of high school days because on his end, because he's like, should I kiss her? Should I kiss her? And then what's different on her end was in high school, the girls were thinking, don't kiss me, don't kiss me. But for Helena, I think she wants the kiss. She wants him to make the move. She has seen it on the screen up above. She's seen it and she wants to like, what's this kissing business all about?
Well, Catfish, is very interesting. You've gone ahead and made the call and are calling her Helena and saying that this is her down on the severed floor. And I maybe haven't said it as plainly as this, but I believe it. I've believed it since episode 1 when everybody said, doesn't it feel like that's Helena on the severed floor? I went, oh yeah, that is it. And so if this is Helena on the severed floor, those kind of faces she makes were like, yeah, are you going to kiss me? You should kiss me. Isn't this what we do? That's the way I read it. It's awkward. Do you want them to kiss? How about that? Do you want him to kiss this woman who, when all is said and done, he doesn't really even know, Helena?
He knows her pretty well. They work together. They work together all the time.
He knows Helly pretty well. He doesn't know Helena at all.
No, but he doesn't know that. He thinks it's Helly.
No, but you do. But that's the question. Do you want him to kiss this person who he thinks is Helly?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's wondering what the change is for him, because now that he thinks his wife's alive, he is more identifying with his Outie than the other people are, right? Like he's a different person. But no, not anymore. You know, it's not cheating.
That is a wonderful question. Is it cheating if you make out with somebody, but they're, in all truth, they're not the person you know? You know, yes, I mean, they're the meat and flesh, you know, but that's not them.
I would say ask Outie Dylan G how he would feel if his wife got intimate with Innie Dylan G.
Oh,
not
man,
good.
That is an interesting perversion.
Mm-hmm. It's a perversion, yeah.
These Innie preverts.
It's the throuple we've been waiting for. Who doesn't want to see Dylan and Gretchen? Let's get it on.
All right, so let's go ahead and get to the first door, which they think, oh, we open this. This is where we see the little small goat pasture. They go in there, Catfish, and it's like completely different. Now we've got like a model farm there. It's not the same. And they have to go through, you know, almost a chute to get to the real pasture, Catfish. The real, we are so back, what the blank is going on craziness. And can you believe Helena was willing to go through the little chute with goat poop in there? Ew.
I mean, look, she's got to role play Helly. But Bubba, when they come out of that tunnel, and there's a pasture with huge hills and lots of baby goats. Bubba, listen, I had a goat when I was a kid. One goat. And I'll tell you something, if these goats had been here for more than 2 days, that grass is too long in there. People use goats as lawnmowers, and they can take care of something. And seriously, that many goats could take care of that grass in 2 days. Boom.
How bad would that room smell, Catfish? Even a room that size. It would, oh man.
I mean, the ventilation has not got to be good. But Bubba, maybe they're not eating as much because they're distracted because there's a man in a goat uniform there.
Yes, okay.
I mean, it's just so this whole section is so weird, including the name of the department, Mammalians Nurturable. Holy cow.
But what's odd about that? You've got to learn how to nurture animals. And we should point out that they didn't mention this on the show, but in press materials, they've gone ahead and given us this actress, Gwendolyn Christie's real name, and it's apparently Lorne.
All right. It's Lorne / Brienne of Tarth. And Bubba, she says something very disturbing. She's got huge shears in her hand, which is strange because you use shears on sheep, not goats. And she says, "Are you here to kill me?" Holy cow, Bubba.
Why would that be somebody's first reaction, Catfish? Why would that be somebody's first reaction? It makes no sense.
No, it is completely weird. But Bubba, we don't have a whole lot of time to consider that, which would be enough because it just gets weirder and weirder. So they kind of stand up. They're a little scared, but they're like, "Look, we're trying to find this woman. Do you recognize her? She was essentially our therapist." Lorne / Brienne says, "We don't abide such fripperies here."
Ouch.
So Mark then pushes her. She rings the cowbell, and a whole bunch of farmers surround them. The ones that aren't dressed as goats are all dressed similarly. And Bubba, they have not groomed. So to me, this is fascinating because when we saw the goat last year, the guy who was taking care of them, who I'm 99% sure is among this group.
Yeah, it might be Goat Man. The man disguised as a goat might be him, to be honest.
It might be. I thought it was him at first, and then the second guy I thought might be him. But anyway, in any case, these people, I can't imagine if they had outside lives anymore that they would let them go to this extent. So that also makes me think these people were Outie / Innies, and now for some reason are only Innies. So that's fascinating to me.
Catfish. What upset me in this scene is that, none of them said yole, yole.
Well, I'm sorry. You're lucky they were
nobody
speaking
said
English.
When they realized there was trouble. When there was trouble, Lorne rang the cowbell. But I needed somebody to go to the big alpine horn and scream, "Ricola!"
Holy cow. Bubba, they are scared.
They like Miss Casey. They like Miss Casey, these goat herders.
It turns out that they do know her. Somehow they convinced them, okay, we'll actually talk to you people. But they did send someone to Milchick to tell them about this. So this is not going to be great. But they say, look, whatever's happening with Miss Casey, it's not a mammalian's problem. But Mark, trying to rally the troops, we're going to have a second revolt here. Maybe a mammalian's nurturable revolt, says it's an Innie problem. If it happened to Miss Casey, who's going to step up when it happens to us?
Heck yeah.
Yeah. First they came for the sexy therapist, and I didn't say anything because I wanted a sexy therapist. And then they came for the people dressed as goats, and I didn't say anything because I wasn't dressed as a goat.
Wait, what? You weren't?
Yeah.
There are interviews online that imply that the reason why we got the goat herders, this goat scene in season 2 is because so many people just loved the little flash of the goats in season 1. So you read an interview where it's implied, well, they're back mainly because people liked them in season 1. The way my brain takes it is that, okay, this is really not something to focus on and to help us solve the mysteries of Lumon's goals and stuff. Other people use this as, this is a way to help us understand Lumon's goals. And just because they brought it back, in such a big way in season 2 doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't have a tie to the big picture. But right now, my stance is this is just fun oddity. There's not really, quote unquote, an answer in the goats. How do you feel about the goats as if it has any relevance to the big overall mystery, Catfish?
Right. Well, I alluded to this earlier. I'm taking a different approach to this show that I took to Lost, which ended up getting me into trouble. And that is, I don't need everything explained. I will take some oddness just for the sake of oddness. I'm not going to take a stance on whether it's going to help or not, but my opinion is, as long as it's weird, I'm here for it. Especially when they ask to see their belly buttons to prove that they are pouchless.
Now, this goes back to season 1, episode 5, where Bert tells Irving and Dylan a rumor that they, meaning the people in MDR, have pouches with larval offspring that will attack you if you get too close. So this is a rumor that Lumon is doing to keep people away from the MDR staff. Maybe because they need the MDR staff to finish Cold Harbor. We'll see. But shockingly, lots of rumors spread, even though these departments don't intermingle too much, Catfish.
What I would like to know is, and again, if they don't answer it, that's fine, but these people seem to have untethered from the outside world when they were previously tethered. At least one of them.
Oh, yeah, without question.
So the question is, what happened there?
What happened, man? What's going on, man? All right, well, now it's time, before we get to our Outie characters in Outie world, we've got to go to our main man, Milchick, who is getting respect/disrespect, Catfish.
It's double S Sexy Seth.
Oh, man. Milchick, he's showing up for work, dapper as usual, maybe a little late since the MDR staff is already there. What's the first thing that ruins his day? He sees these 12 balloons that he spent a lot of money and time on to impress Mark, and they've just been left in the hallway deflated. Evil Mark. How could he do that to Milchick's kindness? Terrible. Terrible.
It's just so good because Milchick just so horrible to the Innies, doesn't really care about them, and yet he's emotionally stung by the balloon rejection.
How could you say that?
Delicious. How
could you say that, Catfish? Has your supervisor ever given you balloons?
Yeah.
And balloons with your own face on them? Has your supervisor ever done that?
No, though, at my cookie party one time, I don't know if you remember, our friend Mork brought cupcakes with the face of somebody else at the cookie party, but mostly just to mock him. Just to mock him.
I know. I'm still scarred by that. Where Milchick went out and got specialty made balloons. Like for my birthday, my most recent birthday, they did get me a single balloon at the office. And I was like, one single balloon, and this face isn't on the balloons, I quit. And yet here, Milchick, it's just disrespect. And so then somebody has entered his office without waiting for him in the waiting room like they should, and that's Natalie. She is there, as she tends to be, with the board in her ear. You know, they are trying to make him feel better about his betterment, Catfish, even though they took forever to fix his computer from saying, "Hello, Miss Cobel."
The language here is very bizarre. At one point, she says, the board austerely desires. And I never knew that austerely was an adverb.
You stick ly on anything, it becomes an adverb.
Yeah, but it's still strange. And then she says the board is jubilant at your ascendance. It wants you to feel appreciated and asks if you do.
Oh, my Lord. Those are two things that should never, yes, they want you to feel appreciated, but then they need the validation that you have, that you feel appreciated.
Well, I'm just saying,
deliciously terrible. Oh, so good.
Milchick learned his attitude towards underlings from the board. Let's just say that.
Well, how about this? These presents are recanicalized. Oh my God! Meaning they were officially not in the canon anymore, and then brought back into the canon of Lumon. Love it. intended to help you see yourself in Kier, our founder. And these things, once again, this is horrifically bad taste, terrible, but it's so far out of whack. I was laughing so loud. It was hilarious. Oh my God. He's got the whole Kier cycle.
I know, with nice paper in between them.
Oh my gosh.
And then with the damn, when Natalie says the board wants you to know that I got the same gift, it just ultra cringe. And then Bubba, it was my favorite thing about the board is when someone says, tell the board, and Natalie's like, oh, the board hung up. Yeah, the board loves hanging up on people in the middle of the statement.
Milchick's storyline ends by him being a perfect employee. He stays late yet again.
Yes,
but he takes he takes the Kier cycle and he puts it on a box high on a shelf in a closet. So Milchick didn't appreciate this catfish.
You know what? Maybe he just put them in the place where they are, where they're supposed to be. I'm not saying that he necessarily doesn't like them. I'm just saying I don't think he's allowed to hang them up in his office. Where else can they go?
Okay, real quickly, because people enjoyed our FMK from last week so much.
I love it. Okay.
We're not, it's just one person, but Natalie, that super chipper, 50,000 watt smile Natalie. Would you FM or K her if during all those events she had an earpiece in and the board was communicating her during it? Like, could you F Natalie while she was listening to the board? Could you marry Natalie while she's listening to the board? Or would you kill Natalie if she's got an earpiece and is listening to the board? Let's hear it, Catfish.
Well, Bubba, I'm just gonna let you guess by saying one sentence, and then you'll guess which one.
Sure, okay.
My sentence to her is going to be, the board may be done, but I'm not.
So you've killed her. How could you? Oh, my goodness. Okay. Adult content. Let's run away.
Oh, Bubba, you laughed at that one, and they're so nice for me.
Terrible. Just for that, we have to leave the severed floor for that terrible diversion that got us demonetized there. Catfish, we got a bunch of outer world stories to talk about. We've got Miss Cobel, we've got Mark, which we probably should leave to the end. We've got Dylan as Outie, and then of course we've got some Ricken silliness. What do you want to talk about in the Outie world first?
Well, strangely enough, it may have more to do with what happens in the end, but I'm kind of at this point least interested in Mrs. Cobel-Big.
Okay, yeah, I agree. This felt like a show that, like, if this was real life, she storms off, she's been insulted. But the show needs to keep this great actress, Patricia Arquette, back in the mix. Yeah. But they can't keep her in the mix in the company. If this is a typical TV show, she'll find herself back working for Lumon in some capacity by the end of season 2, but certainly not now.
I think what you said about feeling like the storylines are too slow. This is as far as like waiting for the wizard. Right. This one is the one where it feels like it's a little wheel spinning because she's going to leave, but then she comes back. She's going to join. She's not going to join. It all seems a little spinning in place.
Now, we should mention that the previously on reminds everybody that down in almost her Lumon shrine in her basement, Miss Cobel had this little, what looks like a hospital, ID tag that said Charlotte Cobel, date of birth 3/17/44. Now, Patricia Arquette was certainly not born in 1944. If Harmony Cobel is supposed to be originally Charlotte Cobel, is this, or maybe this is an alternate universe? Everybody mentions, hey, these cars are, old cars like this VW Rabbit she drives. The song that she puts on and plays, I'm going to go on a small tangent about it. It's the Stone Roses song Love Spreads, and this is from their second album, which was released in 1994, this song that begins the episode. What's interesting about the Stone Roses is the Stone Roses came out with their first album. Critics and fans called it a masterpiece, one of the greatest albums ever. Then, because they were in a dispute with their record contract, their next album, the follow-up that should build on the initial success, guess what? It doesn't get released for years and years and years, almost like Severance Season 2 doesn't get released for years and years and years. The Stone Roses' second album comes out. The lead single is this song, Love Spreads, and a lot of people are like, what's this? This isn't any good. This isn't the great stuff I loved in the first album. So a part of me wonders if that is almost like, hey, you waited forever for the Stone Roses' second album and it's terrible. You're going to wait 3 years for Severance Season 2, but we're not going to have a sophomore slump. So that's my divergent tale of the 90s band, the Stone Roses.
All right, so you said that album came out in '94. So yeah, I have a question about that we'll cover in the. I actually have some deeply dumb Catfish questions today.
Sure.
All right, so she is driving towards Salt Neck, which is 238, let's presume, miles away. She looks in the front seat, in the passenger seat, and it's a weird breathing tube, Bubba.
Another with this Charlotte Cobel sticker on it, label on it.
So I don't know, something about that makes her decide, I'm going back. So she waits in the parking lot for Helena to leave for the day. By the way, speaking of old cars, Helena has like a boss car from the
old
60s.
Caddy. It looks sharp.
It is in mint condition. So she goes out to Ms. Cobel's car, and this is the part, it's very confusing to me because at some point, Helena says, this is why we asked you to come back. Maybe she's talking about being on the sack. But anyway, it's very disturbing. Cobel wants to come back because she says, I want to come back to MDR because Mark S is completing a Cold Harbor. I'm the one that's been shepherding that work. She wants Milchick gone. Whoa. She wants to be the floor manager.
Helena doesn't take kindly to that, Catfish.
No.
She gives this ice cold diss. I hear ego, hubris, arrogance. Kier teaches us that they only cause pain. Ouch. But Cobel's like, you know what? I did all this hard work. I wasn't a Nepo baby like some of us. Snap.
Right.
Catfish.
And then Helena says the thing which is applicable to you, Bubba.
Okay.
She says you overestimated your contribution and underestimated your blessings. I mean, it is a stare down. And Helly's like, all right, we're going to get the board. Come on over. And there's a beautiful, subtle moment where as she's standing there, her driver takes like a half step forward.
Yep.
And you're like, whoa. And then I'm like, at this point, I'm like, run, Cobel, big run.
Oh, you want her to live? Hell yeah.
And then I'm
so
like,
you've chosen her over Helena.
And then I was like, why am I rooting for Cobel Big? But it was just so clearly a dangerous situation. Oh, stranger danger. So then she actually reacts appropriately. She freaks out and she peels out in her VW Rabbit. Bubba, I just don't know how she thinks she can be safe from this company that has 280 offices around the world, has a lot of influence.
Part of me wondered where she was like, well, if I go into that building, maybe there's something in me. There's almost a severance chip in me that'll start. And so, interesting. How about this? Did you say you're least interested in Miss Cobel? Because I am.
They're kind of saving her for later, so we're spinning our wheels. So her storyline isn't blowing my skirt up right now.
Guys, if this storyline is blowing up your skirt, number one, please don't phrase it that way, but let us know at PHQ. Go down in the YouTube comments. Now, Dylan, Outie Dylan, when he's his Outie self, he's maybe a typical suburban dad. He's like, I spent all day at work. Let me zone out on the couch. Kids, you do whatever you want. Now, Gretchen, based on her outfit, Catfish, she feels like she's either a cop or a security guard somewhere. And she works the overnight shift. Wow. Ooh.
Yeah, so they don't spend much time together. Holy cow. And basically, Innie Dylan has got it going on. He's got the attitude. He's got everything. Outie Dylan has a hard time making cookies from a roll of dough. So that just shows you that Innie Dylan was right about Outie Dylan. He is a loser, but he does ask Gretchen how her meeting with his Innie went, and she says it was good, weird good, but good. And I think this is going to, we've got Mark on the outside trying to figure something out. We've got Irv on the outside trying to figure something out. Sorry, Mark on the outside, Mark and Irv on the outside and on the inside are trying to figure something out. Dylan on the inside no longer cares about figuring something out. On the outside, he doesn't care, but it feels like this storyline is going to get Outie Dylan to care because he's going to be like, Innie Dylan better keep his paws off my lady.
That is exactly where I'm going. I think Gretchen's going to go, boy, Innie Dylan is the guy I married, not the guy who's ended up become a blob on the couch. Ooh, boy. Oh, boy. And talking about blobs on the couch, let's get to Ricken. Natalie Kalin, oh, my God. This scam she's having to pull to pretend to be interested in Ricken's book, this is gold. And when you talk about one of the best sentences for a book, oh, my God. You cannot fill the void. Beer and juleps can't fill the void left by love. Only wine, which is famously costly, can fill it. Oh, my God. Catfish.
Which is why sadness among the most recurrent issues facing the poor. Bubba,
people are afraid to say it. Not Ricken. He's willing to tell you the truth.
This is an old term that I don't think the youngs say anymore, Bubba, but all I could think of after this was, what a D-bag.
What a Dylan bag. Good point.
And then she says, remarkable, so astute. And he says, oh, you think? That's what I was going for. Oh, my God.
Devin, once again, Devin is the only one on this show who really has any sense. I saw this funny meme online today that, they're like Severance and they show a giant book. And then next to it is Severance if Devin is in charge. And it's like a pamphlet because she would cut through all this BS and get to what's going on. So good. But they want him to make an Innie version of the book, Catfish. There's certain verbiage which the Innies respond to more favorably.
Yeah, that is the waist deep bull crap that Ricken writes.
Goat crap.
And this is really, really disturbing Devin. And especially Natalie. They love talking up about how happy Mark is inside. Milchick and Natalie. Natalie says he's one of the sweetest members of the severed floor. So let her know. Let him stay severed. He's happy that way.
Okay, Catfish, we got to get to this mind twist ending, which
let's do it.
In some ways, I'm talking about wizard way. This is jumping, almost to the wizard. Mark and Devin have been trying to come up with plans to, pass a message to Innie Mark. And the way they were doing this, how long does it take how long is he him before he loses everything? Can we burn an image into his eyes? Apparently you can't do that. This is crazy. Now he knows what happened to Petey, right? He knows what happened to Petey. He saw this woman kill somebody. And yet, as soon as he hears her say, did Innie Mark tell you your wife is alive at Lumon? Whoa, Kev.
Bubba,
drop the mic.
This was, I know, we know she's alive, but this is a jaw-dropping moment from Mark, and you see it on his face. And so even though we know he's alive, this is like, I was just like, whoa, shit's about to get heavy. Because he's gotten, he has his suspicions and everything, but this is it. This is confirmation. He says, is Gemma alive? And she says, she equivocates. She was the last time
she tells him the
truth.
It was true, right.
But she says, no flashing of lights. The only way to get out information is reintegration. She's better now at the process. Sure.
There's no way anybody, after what they saw Petey, would agree to this. Even somebody who wants his wife. I'm seeing this, And she's building those components in his basement. And I just wrote in the show notes, I go, this cannot end well. Oh, no, my Lord.
Can't. However, when you say that you wouldn't do it,
yeah,
you wouldn't do it, but the show has clearly let us know for 13 episodes that his life has totally been destroyed by his wife's loss. So sure, he is going to say yes before she can even barely get the question out. But this is not good. As you say, you can't end well. I'm like, yes, the experiment, you all, as any good scientist knows, you definitely get the experiment right, always on try number 2.
God, like when you see the lines of, theoretically, I assume both brain waves lining up and his hands start freaking out like he's losing motor skills, Catfish.
Yeah, not even worse than that. She swears. Now, Bubba, I don't know if you've been in a doctor's office and your doctor goes, holy crap. It's not good, Bubba.
Right. You don't want the doctor. How about this? Have you ever had this? Yeah, I'm just going to do oops.
I actually had a doctor, my cardiologist looked at my cholesterol one time, and he was sitting in his chair and he went like this. What?
I haven't done that, but
good.
How about the time when you have something x-rayed or something and they have you put an X on the limb that you need x-rayed or looked at? You're like, you don't know you need me to put an X, to write this one on my hand or foot? Whoa.
Oh, I have never had that done. That is weird.
It is weird. It's welcome to Lumon. It is incredible. So, Catfish, we are getting a mic drop moment.
Now, Bubba, hold on. She tries to tell him, look, I know this is weird, but you should feel good when this is over, which is amazing that they have copied one of your lines to the ladies.
When it's over, when it's over, all the ladies feel better. So that's what that's what they tell me. So
I'm better now.
Like, we talk about frolic and we talk about all these words. One of the things that she's leading Mark through is tell me about shame. And when he was young, you assume left the gate open and his dog died. That's pretty much shame. And it feels like we're seeing Innie Mark's first couple of days and they are blending together. He's wearing different outfits, like almost he had a couple of first days, Catfish. Crazy. We cannot have, this can't stand. This is what's going on.
And we have him on the table, Petey giving him the questions.
Yep.
What's your name? And so that's kind of the thing, like, what is my name? So, oh my God, Bubba, this is,
We're only at episode 3, Catfish.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You're like, let's get to the wizard. We've got wizardry right here. They are not pussyfooting around.
This show is just so marvelous. Once again, my 7 is on the Severance scale. This show is so marvelous, so crazy, so, oh my Lord, where could it go? But to me, this felt like a jump, almost too far a jump. I was begging Outie Mark not to do it. Not because, I don't want him to have some clarity, but just because it looks dangerous. It's going to F you up. It's going to make the show itself almost is an unreliable narrator about what really is happening.
Right.
And now I think you're really going to have that, by tenfold, where Mark's going to be an unreliable narrator in his own life.
Holy cow. This is amazing, Bubba. I'm so excited for season 4. But before we talk about that, Bubba, we've got to go into, and we've got some tonight, the Double D's Double Q's.
Double D's Double Q's.
Yeah, the deeply dumb catfish questions. Okay, first one. At the beginning of the episode, we seen them copying the "Have you seen this woman" poster. Bubba?
Yeah.
Why do they have a copier? Everything their own job only involves doing numbers on the computer. They're not sending memos to anybody. They're not putting anything up about parties. Why do they have a copier, Bubba?
They have a copier because Helena knows what the plan is. She's down there. if Mark came up with a plan of, hey, Irving, draw Miss Casey, then we'll make copies. So what's Helena going to do? She's going to make sure they have a copier because she is there to get Cold Harbor across the finish line. That's why.
All right. Well, okay. I don't believe that the copier just showed up, but all right, that's fine. Why? Now, we talked about this, we really came to the fore today. Why are all the cars old, but Milchick's helmet is from the 2040s? His helmet is a badass modern helmet. I can tell you, I rode motorcycles in the 80s and 90s, and they were not like that, Bubba.
Could it be that Lumon pays its employees so poorly they can't afford nicer cars? Maybe this takes place in Cuba, where all the cars are old. And that's why it's so cold, like Cuba is.
This is something, I wonder if they're trying to, well, obviously this is an alternative universe because we don't have anybody like Kier from the late 1800s, early 1900s. But it is funny that they do seem to be setting this in the 90s, as you said.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
Here's my last question. Mark is being asked a bunch of just to set the baseline questions. She says, name a dam. And he says, Hoover. And Bubba, I thought I'm going to ask you this question because that was the only answer that I had. Bubba, can you name a dam other than Hoover Dam?
Not only can I name a dam other than Hoover, the first then one that would come to my mind is not Hoover.
Really?
When I was a kid, we had at least 2 family reunions at a state park called Fontana Dam. So the way this state park was developed is they built a dam, the Fontana Dam, and the workers who built the dam, they built a lot of cottages. Like they had to build a house and roads to this place so they could build the dam out in the middle of these giant Blue Ridge Mountains. And so, after they built the dam, they were like, well, we built a lot of cottages. What are we going to do? Let's turn it into a cheap park. And so my family always ended up at this damn Fontana Dam for family reunions. So that is a dam I can name.
Wow, that is impressive, Bubba. By tomorrow, probably around this time, I will still only be able to name Hoover Dam.
How dare you? Listeners, take him away. And now it's time.
Yes, for the best. Wes, tell me, yes.
For our severance debate. Now, Catfish, your point is that Miss Cobel is the only person on the show that really creates, what do you
cares about the principles of Kier. I sure did. I sure did. She's the only one who really cares about the principles of Kier. Look, I'm sold by some of our listeners, and we talked about it last week. Some listeners that we got more this week, that this whole experiment is some sort of thing to extend the lives of the Kier family. Most importantly, I would call him Proud Papa, but he's more like Angry Papa. And so that's what Cold Harbor is about. So the big guy, all he cares about is extending his life. Helena only cares about getting ahead and pleasing her dad and just knows these things by rote. Milchick, just trying to get ahead. The only person on this show who really cares, was brought up in it, and really has a shrine, cares, is dedicated to the principles of Kier, is Mrs. Cobel. Bubba, prove me wrong.
I would say that, yes, she does care about the principles, but she also, as we've shown, Helena was not wrong. This is, hubris. This is about her inner self. And so if Helena is being correct, and maybe Kier was lying when she said, Kier said those are ugly attributes. I'm sure Kier said them, but like any human being, he must have had them. But that said, the fact that he's going again, that she has this inner hubris, this inner desire for, acceptance and recognition and all these things.
Well,
I think that means she isn't. She's against the principles of Kier. There, I've proven you wrong.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Now, every human being wants to be recognized, but she is the only one who is working to promote the principles of Kier for the principle's sake. Other people are doing it mainly for other reasons. But her reasons for doing this mainly are the glorification of Kier.
I think that even though he was very conflicted with this terrible present and recognition he was given today, I do believe Milchick believes in the principles of Kier, don't you? That he really believes in the principles and that he's a convert. He agrees with them.
No.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Well, I mean, that's
where do we go from here?
That's my strong statement. I can't accept that someone else is. But if anyone is, it's marvelous.
There we go. Thank you. Okay, so my statement that I want to debate is that the show misses the character of Helly. So once again, I've accepted, and I know I pronounce it every which way, that Helena, however I pronounce it, I believe that we haven't seen Helly at all in season 2. And so why is I think that a detriment to the show? It's kind of because what you pointed out when we went over the Innie's Catfish. We don't have an Innie right now really fighting against the system. Mark is trying to work within the system, within the freedom he's been given to discover his wife. We see Irving, who was, like, let's burn it down. That was him at the end of season 1. Let's burn this place down. Irving now, he seems like he's more interested in his paintings and Bert, which is admittedly, he was always interested in Bert. We don't have him trying to fight it. As you pointed out astutely, Dylan is now content because he's getting to see his wife. He's seeing that there's a purpose to the work he's doing. He's providing for his kids. Without Helly was willing to always go the furthest, to do self-harm, which is horrific, but to do self-harm to fight Lumon from the inside. And so I think the show not having that is hurting it. And then I'll go ahead and be a bit of a shipper. Without really having Helly appear in the show, I think that is, for me at least, hurting the Mark-Helly relationship that the show wanted us to be invested in. It's hard to continue being invested in a relationship when one of the parties isn't on the show anymore. So that is my strong statement.
All right. Well, I see where you're coming from, but I disagree. First of all, I think Helly had gone as far as she could to fight against the system as far as self-harm, etc.
Okay.
And also, I feel like having Helena be a double agent is spicier for the show, especially at this point because Mark is stuck in a place where he's not really going to pursue his relationship with the real Helly because he's fixated on his wife. So
okay, so let's
find it more fascinating.
There. Let's pause there, though. So you're saying Mark won't go further in his relationship with Helly because he's, focused on his wife.
Right.
So, Catfish, have you ever not chased a girl because of your wife?
So, you agree with me. The show does not miss Helly. Perfect.
Oh, how could you? How terrible. Listeners, we do these debates to say these strong statements because we know you feel strongly about these characters and this show. Go down on those comments and tell us we're wrong about everything. Tell us we're right about everything. Give us theories that you've developed from watching the show. Yeah. We want to hear it. And on social media at PHQ.
It is never a bad idea to agree with Catfish.
Boy, that is some Lumon talk right there. Okay.
Speaking of Lumon talk, Bubba,
yeah,
it is time for my favorite part of the podcast.
What's that?
It's when our listeners give us the feedback. The crazier, the better.
Now, Chantel's, this is just feedback about our podcast. Chantel wrote, I laughed so hard at the Arby's and FMK parts of the podcast on episode 2. You guys are so goofy, and I love it. Goofy?
I love it. And Silk Bucket says, I'm usually an Arconiac, but I'm here for the Severance talk. This is the best show on TV, no question. Agreeing with Bubba, try not to make it a habit.
Oh, man, Arconiac. We'll always watch our Only Murders in the Building podcast. Larissa on Instagram our thumbnail to this podcast was ask the question, are Outies less interesting than the Innies? And Larissa just wrote, yes. We love all feedback. Thank you, Larissa.
Now, Hungry Like a Lion was supporting you, Bubba, because they said, I come to this podcast for the discussions of grip work.
Finally.
You're welcome, Hungry Like a Lion. Now, I love it. Get mic'd. Our loyal listener says, I have two things for you both today.
Okay.
Severance without the Innies would be like Prison Break Season 2 without the prison. And you two are rocking the Mormon look. Love the pod as usual. Thank you so much.
Oh, man. Thank you so much. And then I can't even pronounce this next handle. What do you got for this next one?
I'm going to say Peace Snouse
Sure thing. They wrote, I got into your podcast at Silo and keep it going. Did you guys ever do a podcast on Foundation? They ask us. Now, Catfish, I think you watched Foundation. Is that correct?
I watched the first season of Foundation and found it mildly interesting. I guess the second season has been out for a long time, I think. So yeah. I'll watch the second season whenever I can. I have to say, Ms. Catfish, I have to on the sci-fi. I gotta limit it to like the best of the best for Ms. Catfish.
We got feedback on pineapples, Catfish. Mike said the biggest mystery in season 2 is, how does Milkshake carry a pineapple gift basket on his motorcycle? The man is just that great, Mike. That's why. And his name is Milchick.
And SN said pineapple equals pineal gland, and I hope they are referencing the great Stuart Gordon movie From Beyond. It's a great movie. The same guy and lead actor who was in Reanimator. Now, From Beyond is not a better movie than Reanimator, but for 18-year-old Catfish, Barbara Crampton in leather. Oh my God. Damn.
Okay, here we go. Now, Alex on Facebook gave us our final bit of feedback, pineapple feedback. He said this is his double F.
Double F.
Fun fact, he says all commercially grown pineapples are clones of each other. Whoa, Lumon pineapples.
That's why they're not smart. Too inbred.
How could you?
All right, so now, Bubba, this is it. The Helly versus Helena. We've got a lot of feedback on this. Sayali Free Falestine says, I am still not convinced it's Helena on the inside. I still think it's Helly, but some of her actions in this episode were a bit sus. We've got someone else, Rinny, who says, am I the only one who has no idea whether it's Helly or Helena? I truly see evidence for both, which is fascinating. However, Bubba, what does Leo T. Felton say?
Well, Leo believes, like we do, that it's Outie Helena in there. Leo notes that because she never takes off her watch in season 2, episode 2, in the locker room before she enters the elevator to go down to the Severance level. And he says, I watch all the other Severance podcasts that pop up on his feed, yet no podcast has made the point that Helena didn't take off her watch when she went into the feed, or went into the elevator, Catfish.
Leo, now there is one podcast that has mentioned this.
Right, because of you, Leo.
Because of you. So you should only listen to one Severance podcast, and that is this one. Now, Jerry Riki says, I have never seen worse theories for any show than the theories for the show Severance. Here are some good ones.
Okay.
Mark is an Egan. Helena wants Helly's life over hers and likes Mark.
Do you agree with those? I think Mark being an Egan... Wouldn't Devin know if Mark was an Egan?
Yeah. Now, Zazzetti says, at least to me, it kind of looked like Helena had a bit of jealousy watching Helly R. And one of my dumb theories, there are no dumb theories.
No dumb theories.
Is that Lumon is trying to turn Innies into Outies.
Oh, no.
Let's not forget about the Lexington letter where she found out her work might have influence on the outside. So why would they be trying to turn Innies into Outies?
Maybe because you could release them on the outside world, and they're almost like baby goats. They're not going to cause any trouble. You get people docile in the workplace, and then push them out and let them do whatever the blank they want.
Oh, that's fascinating. All right, we got some stuff about Cold Harbor, Bubba. Bill Cava said Cold Harbor is the project where Innie Mark and Ms. Casey conceive a baby as Kier reborn. Wa-boom!
That
Bubba can't even handle that theory, Bill. You have discombobulated him.
That is some crazy stuff. That was via email, hello@doublepmedia.com.
And Jacob says Cold Harbor, I think, is cryogenic for people who died or downloading minds to AI replica. Pete Lee Bell says, I think there are clones of Kier in the show.
Holy smokes. Constitutional Carrot wrote a different podcast, shout out to Igor, pointed out that Cold Harbor is the only battle that the Confederacy won during the Civil War. Now, I'm not sure that's true, but sure. He says, okay, that could be an alternate universe we're watching, which it is an alternate universe, but he said where the Union lost and Lumon's goal of creating a complacent slave class in modern day would make sense. Ooh.
Now, listen, Constitutional Carrot.
Yeah.
This podcast you mentioned obviously works harder and smarter than us.
Yep.
But are they funnier? Probably.
Amen. 100%. Now, we got another email. This was from our buddy Wayne Rogers, who says, when you think about what happened to Gemma, there are a couple things. Wayne wrote, it could be a car accident staged. Mark has suggested he identified a badly burnt body to Devon when they were talking at Pip's Diner. And we see Mark return to what we believe is the accident scene and put his hand on a tree, suggesting perhaps it was a fiery car crash. But then Wayne notes that at the end of the claymation intro, we see a car half submerged in icy water. Is that Cold Harbor? Wayne concludes, Gemma, we will find out, is a research scientist and professor whose work is secretly being funded by Lumon. She uses her real accident in the water, which she survives, and Lumon restages as a way to further her research by using herself as a test subject. Ooh, that would be brutal, Wayne. Brutal.
Well, again, we do know that there are a lot of, when people are trying to live longer, they freeze their bodies and go into cryogenic chambers. So theoretically, if the water was cold enough to sort of protect her, she could have stayed alive for longer. Now, Bubba, we've already got episode 3 feedback. First is from Gen X Cat Mom, who listened, Bubba. I thought I gave the episode a good review. Gen X said 12 out of 10. Triple G's.
Triple G's?
Glorious gallivanting goats. Cobel Vidcar, stargazing, belly button, Ricken result, Dylan, Irv, the board. Milchick keeps his cool. The last 15 minutes. Bubba, Gen X Cat Mom was so excited about this episode. She ended it with, what a time to be alive. What a time to be alive.
What a time to be alive. Who is alive is the name of the episode. A good friend of ours, Miss Vicky on Blue Sky, wrote, episode 3 was Chef's Kiss. So much, she's already watched it twice. That little tete-a-tete between Helena and Harmony at the end, incredible. So there's somebody who loves the Miss Cobel showdown of Catfish.
Yeah, a lot of people proving that your review was wrong. Our good friend Holly at Holly Pants on Blue Sky says, wow, that was an exciting episode. Milchick's gift made me scream OMG. That Milchick Natalie moment was something. Yeah. And the timing is crazy with what's going on with us Outies.
Oh boy, say that again.
When was fantastic. Hope we get more of her. Still waiting for Outie Irving Burt moment we didn't get to see.
Caro Joso, I mean, it might be Carolyn or Caroline, I think. They wrote, listening to the two of you discuss this and other shows is a true delight. Your banter and search for clever ways to use wordplay bring a new element to how I think about the show Severance during the week and elevates my appreciation for the whole endeavor. Now she's talking about episode 2. She says, I give it the last episode a double M.
Double M.
For Mark's Menage a Trois, because of the double images of Helly and Miss Casey in the beautifully created intro. There, we're talking the intro, Catfish. There you go.
I love it, Bubba. Now we've got your favorite character on the show. We got some feedback about Ricken. Link Hogthrob says, flattery will get you everywhere with Ricken.
Oh, man. Zombie Italian said, I think Ricken might be a failed attempt at a chip that holds some part of Kier. Oh, that is funny. His book writing is in a very similar style to Kier, and yet Ricken is unaware of it, as is Devon. But Ricken's friends all have that inequality. Rebecca saying she had a rash in her head from a parrot, but I think that's where a chip went into Rebecca. Ooh, all of Ricken's friends are unaware of being chipped. Ooh, possibly being dead, the same as Gemma. Zombie Italian's going crazy for you, Catfish.
Bubba, this is the tinfoil hat stuff I crave, because while they're also coming up with a crazy, crazy theory, they're also heavily dissing Ricken, saying the only people who could be Ricken fans are mindless rubes.
How could you? How could you?
Bubba, we got an email from our good friend, Pat Spinagle. Pat, man, he got an email, and so that's how I know it was from his Innie. Pat says, I support Ricken's book being an inspiration to the Innies because they are currently captive to a Kier-centric infosphere with all their information about the world controlled by Lumon. Ricken's book, although it's likely a silly bunch of pretentious nonsense, might just be what's needed to fuel the next macrodat uprising.
Will that make you love Ricken, Catfish, if his book pushes everybody to revolt against their corporate oppressors?
It does, but if only during the revolt, Ricken's hands get broken so he cannot write another book.
Oh boy, guys, that is almost all the feedback. We had so much, we had to chop a bunch out. Remember, if you're on YouTube, leave us those comments, leave us your theories, social media at @PHQ. Next week, we're going to be talking about season 2, episode 4, Woes Hollow. The team participates in a group activity. For everybody here at P Media, my name's Bubba. You can find me on social media at Fit and Trim. That's FITTENTRIM, at Fit and Trim on social media.
And my name is Catfish. You can hit me up at G to the Man. That's GEETOTHEMAN on Blue Sky and Instagram. And you can always hit up the entire P Media empire at the word double, the letter P, and the word media. And we will talk to you next week on Milchick Man.